in a lot of ways, that was the beginning of me finding myself in jujitsu.
You've been a huge Black male leader for here in the Bay Area and just throughout the US with your jujitsu chess program you had. You were
Yeah, yeah,
always putting together different art or museum exhibits just to let people know our history. Or you're
yeah,
constantly bringing in a lot of guests to your Bishop Chronicles podcast. They were enlightening. You always start off with your stoicism
yeah,
thought of the day,
yeah.
and
No,
that's kind of why I
no.
wanted to bring you on because you have a group going on for it was the Resilient Men group. And I kind of want to understand, what's that's all about, who are you looking to help, and how are you helping these men?
Yeah, so I've been out here. I've been coming back and forth for like 4 years. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And so I'm supposed to get my my work visa. Okay, so I apply. These people want to hire me to work at this school. I'm like, cool. And then the UK embassy, this woman gave me really bad information, and I went with
Mhm.
it. Visa just got denied. That's why I'm coming back. So I got to get up out the country real quick and reapply. You feel what I'm saying? And so like I just got this fucking apartment with my homie. Like I'm right around the corner from the school that I teach at. Shit is lit out
Mhm.
here. And now I gotta fucking leave. And so it's like it's really weird,
Oh.
but I've been I've been working with this stuff called stoic philosophy for the last few years. And like
Mhm.
it's a big part of it is based on this thing called the dichotomy of control, which is just understanding things you can control and things you can't. And if you can't control it, you don't trip. So it was like, all right, you got to get out. I was like, by what date? They were like, this date. I just went on, got my ticket. Now I'm headed back, and I'm not tripping because I really believe like my future is out here and shit. You know what I mean? Like all
Mhm.
these
Mhm.
things happen out here. We got a big competition coming up next weekend. Some of my
What
private students.
competition is that?
I think it's called the Empire Open. It's called the Empire Open.
Mhm.
So like jujitsu here is where jujitsu used to be in the Bay like 20 years ago. So it's fun. It's a fun time. Like schools are popping up. This school gets big, then it breaks off, and that school gets big and it breaks off. And so it's like you're seeing like you know what I mean? It's great. It's fucking
Well, I
great.
mean, and the skill level seems to be there too, because you got I'm gonna say just the whole UK. I'm not gonna say are you in
Yeah.
England or what
Yeah,
area are you in?
I'm in Leeds, which is like about 3 hours north of London. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
so I mean, this is where Roger Gracie lives. You know what I'm saying? He lives in
Mhm.
London. You know what I'm saying like, and I think also that people think of England as like super super white, which it always will be, but it's also way more integrated than people think. So there's a lot of
Mhm.
Iranians, a lot of Dagestanis, a lot of Japanese. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of judo out here that I think people
Well, I
sleep
mean,
on.
Futaba, the owner of the gym, she's
Yeah,
from London. I mean, she spent a lot of her
yeah,
life
a lot
living
of
out in
time. You know
London.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly. And so it's much more multicultural than you would think.
Mhm.
And just like I think one of the reason why I think, and my instructor Gumby from Heroes Martial Arts, like he really pointed out that, the reason the Bay is so dangerous is because so many different kinds of people are there. Oh, you do kung fu?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll take you to Chinatown. You can see what's up. Oh, you do judo? There's Willie Cahill. There's San Jose State. Oh, you do jujitsu? There's a whole bunch of Gracies, and you know what I mean? And they're students,
Yeah.
students, students. You know what I'm saying? So like London and England in general is the same. You know what I mean? A lot of sick ass wrestlers from Turkey and stuff are out here. You know what I mean? And it changes the way that jujitsu gets executed. You know what I mean? Because the entry point becomes different, right? Like a
Mhm.
Dagestani wrestler is going to grapple different than a judoka. You know what I mean? And if
Mhm.
these things are like making what the stand up game of the UK is, then it changes everything. So it's really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that sounds cool. Yeah, I mean, Fionn, the freaking phenom right now
Yeah.
is from the
Out
UK,
here.
she's from Wales. Yep.
Yeah. And plus they have the Polaris Pro, which is just an amazing
Mhm.
series where they really try to like highlight and showcase women, but just the fights themselves are very high energy. The crowds, they get it. You know what I mean? Like it's really
Yeah.
cool. It's really cool.
Yeah. Man, that's I haven't been to England in so long. I went once with my
Yeah.
mom in my 20s. I'm almost,
Okay.
40 now. We're not gonna talk about that. I'm living life, shoot. Forget the age. I'm living life. I'm having a good time.
So whatever, you know
Huh?
what I'm saying? You look like you're
Yeah.
still in your 20s, you know what I'm saying? Keep it moving, you know what I'm saying? It's good.
I try. I do my best. I do my best. You know what? I forgot something too. I'll make this podcast announcement real quick. It
Go.
won't take us as long as how it took us to get set up, Adisa. I promise. I'll be back in a jiffy. I'll be right back.
I'm with it. I am with it. This is hilarious.
Hey, so we were talking about, life and how great things are going. So I got engaged. So that's
Oh!
so that's my
Congratulations,
new life accomplishment.
girlfriend.
I forgot to put it on because early in the morning, getting showering, getting dressed, pretty expensive ring. I don't want to lose it. So it has its own little treasure trove that it stays
Yeah,
in.
I
But yeah,
understand.
I had to flash it. I had to flash it for the podcast.
There you go. You know, let them know. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
exactly. Well, I'm
Fantastic.
proud. I'm very happy too in my new relationship and my life and how things are
That's
going.
right.
It's
That's
been great. Like you are for sure somebody who, when I started this podcast and I connected with Tirza to be my producer and we were really starting to get things going. You were the first person who I reached out to, but you were
yeah, I remember.
traveling, you were doing a lot of
You
moving.
know, I was back and forth. It was crazy.
Mhm. Yeah, 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 yeah. So I'm really happy that you're on today because you have been, somebody who's actually been a big part of my life. You gave me my
Isn't
first
it crazy
paid
how
teaching job that
I
accelerated me being a coach, an actual
knew that
like
was gonna work
coach in
though.
jujitsu? Huh?
I knew that was gonna work. I knew that was gonna
Yeah.
be a fit. Like I did. I really did. I was like, you know what? That's gonna work.
Mm.
It's good. All right.
So I was just Tirza was asking, she was like, "Oh, so he was technically your first boss in jujitsu?" I was like, "Yeah, I guess technically you were. You're the one who
No,
paid
I just
me."
pointed you in the direction. I just pointed you in the direction of where the money was.
Yeah. And
You know what I'm
then
saying?
you hooked me up with training out of Physique Magnifique and connected with
That's
you,
right.
Tava. Yep.
Yeah.
So you've
Look,
been a huge part of my life, Adisa,
yo,
even though we don't talk very much.
but you know
First
what though?
podcast first podcast I did was with you,
That's right.
on
That
yours,
was a good
on Bishop
podcast too.
Chronicles.
On Picture Chronicles. That
Yeah.
was lit. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, but I mean, it was all like reciprocal because you got me into the
Mhm,
UFC gym. You know what I'm saying? And that,
mhm,
like, in a lot of ways, that was the beginning of me finding myself in jujitsu. Meaning that,
mm,
of course, start at Half Gracie, go to Charles, finish with, with Heroes, get my black belt, you know what I'm saying? Then start teaching over at House and then get the opportunities here in the UK with Gracie Baja Roundhay Leeds and everything out here. And so, it's been really just kind of fantastic. But I can't tell you how much legitimacy working at the San Bruno UFC gym has for me anywhere else that I went in the world. You know what I mean? When they were like, well, where
mhm,
have you taught at? And I'd be like, well, UFC gym San Bruno. They're like, you taught at the UFC gym? Now, obviously, they know it's not like Vegas. You feel me? But it's
mhm,
still, you know
mhm,
what I mean? And for me, the format was so open at the San Bruno spot that I had to decide, how do I really want warm-ups to go? What does it
mhm.
really mean to have a warm up? You know what I mean? Especially when you come from how Gracie's, where they try to break your soul before you even touch anybody. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
how heavy do I want the warm ups? How light do I want the warm ups? What, you know what I mean? And then that led to me getting a shot to be over at USF where I taught for a while. You know what I mean? So it was just really mutually fantastic, and I appreciate you, and I'm proud of you. So happy to see you get your black belt. So happy to see you, you know, um,
Same
navigate
to
and
you.
it's very impressive.
Mm,
It's very impressive.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you. Thank
yeah,
you. Yeah,
absolutely.
and I love everything you do. Like, for the people who don't know, you've been a huge leader as a black male leader for here in the Bay Area and just throughout the US with your jujitsu chess program you had. You were
Yeah, yeah,
always putting together different art or museum exhibits just to let people know our history. You're
yeah.
constantly bringing in a lot of guests to your podcast, and your Bishop Chronicles podcast is something that when I was driving for Uber and you were on the radio, like you were a staple anytime I was driving to pick people up. And
Thank you so
every
much.
single passenger I had was feeling your show too. They're like, oh, actually, I love what he was saying. Some of the stories I had on were like a little crazy. I was like, oh my God, Adisa. But some of them were, they were like, oh, they were enlightening. You always start off with your stoicism thought of the
Yeah,
day.
yeah,
And
no,
that's kind of why I
no.
wanted to bring you on, because you have a group going on for it was the Resilient Men group. And I kind of want to understand, what that's all about. Who are you looking to help? And how are you helping these men?
Yeah, no, no, no. Thank you. I appreciate that. So,
Mhm.
Bishop Chronicles, ironically, been on a crazy hiatus, but me and Mike Realm are gonna make it pop off soon. And everybody keeps going, you keep saying that, and I don't. And I agree. I agree. I've been dragging, but I've been dragging because I've been living, trying to figure out, what exactly am I doing with the podcast, and what kind of content do I want to deliver. But the Resilient Men's Group was kind of born from that. And so what it's about is, um, you know, uh, I got into stoicism because I had a near death experience. And then right after that, I ended up getting divorced. And so, like, that whole situation shook up my sense of my identity. Like, I really didn't know who I was because I had been married for 23 years and I had known her for 30 years. Right. And I'm
Mhm.
53. So I'm like, dang, more than half of my life. Like, who am I? Like, if I'm not married and if I'm not, you know what I mean, around my kids all the time, like, who am I? And so it took me a while, and Stoicism played a significant role in me finding myself. My direct link into Stoicism actually comes through jujitsu through a guy named Abraham Marte. Shout out to the Dominican Republic, who he was doing a seminar at Heroes. I was supposed to go meet with him, and my split happened like right before the weekend he arrived, and he was expecting me to be there to interview him. I was like messed up. I was not interviewing nobody, and he was like, "Bro." He called like, "Where you at?" And I was like, I'm having a split. It's a bad time. Da, da, da. And then he was like, "Bro, you got to be more stoic." And I was like, "What?" He was like, "You got to be more stoic." And I was like, "What does that mean?" Like, I don't know what that means. And he was like, "Man, you got to look into it. But bottom line is my life isn't perfect either. I got all this other stuff going on, but I'm here and I'm training, and you need to be here. You need to be training. Now we're not doing the interview." And so when I got off the phone, I immediately went into YouTube and started looking up stoicism, which is something I never really did. I never really used YouTube before then to find out a thing, but obviously YouTube had tons of different cool things on stoicism. And that led to me just diving into the wormhole of that philosophy system. And what a lot of people don't know is because of people like, AK Black, also known as Jim Wilson over there at Physique Magnifique, like I got into reading about philosophy at a really early age. So I had read a lot of the
Mhm.
pre-Socratic stuff. I had read Aristotle, I had read Plato, I had read um, lots of Eastern and Western philosophy, like in depth, Confucianism, Taoism, you know what I mean? Lots of different stuff.
Mhm.
So it was easier for me, I think, to understand Stoic philosophy. I don't want to say better than others. I'll just say because of all the philosophy I had been reading, it was easy to understand. And I became a serious believer in the way that philosophy works, which is around a lot of practice. Like it's not that Stoic ideas are cool because you'll find people online who quote Marcus Aurelius or Seneca or whatever, but it's really that like they have different practices for different things you're trying to do. So if you struggle with fear, there are Stoic practices for fear. If you struggle with anger management, they have ways to curb your anger. Sadness, ways to like look at your sadness in a better perspective so that you're not harming yourself. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people that cut themselves, that you know what I mean, that have tried to kill
Mhm.
themselves, even recently and stuff like that, right? And even even express your joy in moderation, right? Like it's not that you're not a joyful person, but like let's take just the Bay for example, right? If the 49ers lose the Super Bowl, stuff gonna be on fire,
Mhm.
right? If they win the Super Bowl, stuff gonna be on fire. So
Yeah.
these are two different extreme expressions of anger and joy, right? So it's about moderation. And once I started doing those practices, my life just became much better. And I started studying it so heavily that within a few years, I was able to like lecture at it at Stanford University, which was amazing, and then they invited me back to do another talk. And I just recently did a talk out here in the UK at a thing called the Next 45, which is created by this amazing guy named Mike Bates, who is the owner of the school that I do some work at right now called Gracie Baja Roundhay Leeds. It's an amazing school. They have 500 students. 500. Like this school is big and it's rapidly
Lot.
growing. Yeah, I know. But this guy is amazing. And he created this thing called the Next 45, where people get to 45, they start falling off, thinking their life's over, thinking they're done. And he's like, no, you got to look at the next 45. And so he invited me to be the keynote speaker at this men's retreat, and it was fantastic. But one of the reasons he invited me to do this men's retreat and be the keynote speaker was because I had been doing the Resilient Men's Group, which is a group where men from all backgrounds all over the UK show up, and we have different conversations around what's bothering us. And then what I do is I weave stoic solutions into the conversations and stoic practices, right?
Mhm.
And it's just been going really, really good. So, if anybody is interested in joining the Resilient Men's Group, just follow me on Instagram at Bishop Chronicles. If you follow me at Bishop Chronicles, the links to get on and be a part of it are really amazing. And, it's a beautiful time. I'm going to be coming to the Bay Area soon and be able to hang out. And I may do some Resilient Men stuff while I'm there. We'll see. But it's a beautiful time. And I'm grateful to be helping men help themselves be better men. Like I'm really working to make sure that people are not trying to follow me.
Mhm.
I'm Resilient Men's Group to help introduce them to themselves, right?
Mm.
Like I know that I am, a teacher of jujitsu. I'm a teacher of meditation. I'm a teacher of chess, right? And I have a group called 64 Blocks, which is about that fusion. But really, uh the reason why I'm slow to do a lot of stuff is because I don't want people following me. I want them following themselves, their own heart, their own mind, their own aspirations, their own goals. I don't want them to be like me. I want them to be like themselves. And the only reason I introduce and push Stoic philosophy, meditation, and chess and jujitsu is because these are tools that I believe introduce the individual to who they naturally are, right? So I don't want a carbon copy of me. I tell my students all the time, don't be trying to move like me on the mat. I'm going to give you a foundation and
Mhm.
a blueprint of how to move. But I will introduce you to jujitsu, but you will introduce me to your jujitsu based off your body type, your mindset, your creativity, right? Being a replica of me isn't what I need on the mat, and it's not what the world needs.
That's beautiful, Adisa. And yeah, I mean, we can only teach from what our own personal experiences and what we know. We can't teach from outside of those things. And so I think you just reinforcing, hey, this is what I know. This is how I can teach you to help you build your foundation. But really this path is your own. Make it your own. Don't be me. I love that. And I think it's a lot different than the traditional ways that martial arts has been taught and how it's been taught to us. And I also really want to just go back and reemphasize, um, how the reason why I had you on and talking about the Resilient Men's Project is because mental health is a very important subject to me. And
Totally.
I think that men don't find it easy for them to have a group or a person where they can actually be authentic and express their emotions because I think it's pushed. Society tries to condition a sense of toughness out of them. So any type of weaknesses or vulnerability is seen as weakness. And I think, we've had some really great men that we thought were on top of their game take their own lives.
Mm.
And to me, I just find it heartbreaking to hear that. That like there's a lot of great, wonderful men in my life who I want them to know Sometimes Vaughn is an ass, but she loves you, you know, and come to me and talk to me about anything because I want to see you here, even on the days that you might be pissing me off. I
Right.
still want you to be here with us. And
No, that's
so,
true.
yeah, as
No,
yeah,
no, I appreciate
yeah.
that. I think that, men do struggle. I think that, everywhere, but especially I think like in the West, meaning like,
Mhm,
America and in the UK, and most of the world though, for real, like men are not encouraged to show anything but toughness, right? But what happens is a lot of that so-called toughness leads to alcoholism, leads to a lot of drug use, leads
mhm,
to a lot of self-harm in soft ways and in slow ways that don't look as painful as they end up, right? So you have guys that, work themselves to death, drink themselves to death, eat themselves into an early grave because they're not
mhm,
really willing to just say, you know what, this isn't the life that I want, or this hurts too much, or I endured this thing that I can't shake. You know what I mean? So the resilient men's group is meant for dudes to show up, say their truth, deal without judgment, you know what I'm saying? And express their pain and their joy and their confusion. You know what I mean?
mhm,
Sometimes dudes are just confused about what they want to do with themselves or how they got to wherever they are in their life. And that's all okay, right? That's all okay.
mhm,
Like
yeah,
so yeah, so we have open conversations, then I sprinkle in a little stoicism, and it's working really well, and I'm trying to get one started in America. And so that's one of the things that I'm going to do when I come out there, hopefully, is set up some resilient men's group events while I'm there and, keep it going. But, mental health is really important. And, I appreciate you for even caring because, it's been more than one occasion where sometimes people in jujitsu um like they've reached out to me about stuff but I didn't really know him, like this one guy many years ago. I bet you this was over 10 years ago. This one guy hit me up because I had posted this thing called the Book of Forgiving by Archbishop
mhm,
Desmond Tutu and his daughter, and it's about how after dealing with very heavy things people were able to forgive, and it talks about the science in forgiving. What does forgiveness do to the human body? What does it do to the human brain? That's what this book is about. So he hit me up and he was like, "Hey man, that looks like a pretty cool book." And I was like, "Yeah, that is a good book, man. You should get it. And after you read it, talk with me." He was like, "Okay." He was like, "Yeah, I've been going through some stuff," but he really, he kept it really mellow. And then I didn't really follow up because I didn't really know him. We just talked nominally. I might see him at class once in a while. And then one day he took his own life, and I was totally
mm,
blown away. And I was like, was he asking for help? And I didn't read it, but he didn't really ask for help. You know what I mean? He was just
yeah,
saying whatever. And I was just like, dang. And so, um, you know, uh, it's a hard road and we all suffer. You know what I mean? And like I saw this really interesting conversation online, and it was about in a world where people aren't getting married as much and most kids are getting raised in households without a dad, like, do fathers actually matter? And it was a
mhm,
strange, really cool quote by this psychologist, and she was basically saying that like ultimately that the value of any father is rooted in the mental health of that parent, right?
mhm,
So like if the dad is not mentally healthy, it might be worse if he's around,
yeah,
right?
mhm,
And it's really deep, right? That like the quality of the father ultimately is based on the mental health of the father, and the quality of the mother is ultimately based on the mental health of the mother. And we're living in a world that's crazier by the minute. So, we all need these resources. We all need therapy.
mhm,
We all need an outlet. We all need um philosophies. For me, it's stoicism. For somebody else, it might be Buddhism. For somebody else, it might be meditation or whatever. But we need to be looking to find solutions to discover and cultivate our joy and our peace deliberately and
yeah,
consistently.
yeah, amen to that, shoot. Man, that's deep. Yeah, it it people it I try to be really sensitive about, that type of, suicide and things of that
Mhm,
nature because I've
mhm.
gone through it myself. my own struggles. And I know like people are ashamed to ask and reach out for help in those instances, and they're ashamed, or they don't really know how to ask or who
Totally.
to ask,
Totally.
and
Or where to
so
start? How do you even explain
yeah,
what you're going through when you haven't really thought about it? How did I get
yeah,
here? How did I get to this pain? Why do I want to harm myself? Why do I think my life
mhm,
don't matter? You know what I mean? Like it's hard to even know that stuff. You know what I mean? It's hard to
yeah,
even know that stuff. So no, I agree. I totally agree.
yeah. So yeah, I yeah, it's a very it's a subject matter that I care about very deeply.
No,
Um,
of course.
and, um, and that's definitely, I've had a lot of different things that sparked this podcast. My first podcast guest was my friend Goli, and she's a therapist. She doesn't have her license as a licensed psychologist yet, but she has her master's in psychology, and she's practiced. She's just taken the test to get her licensure. And so she was my first podcast guest because last year when we reconnected, um, we had this deeply spiritual conversation about coaching and mental health and spirituality, and just listening to her perspective on how she was speaking about it, my whole physical body was vibrating. And I don't think I've ever
Yeah,
had that experience with somebody where I'm talking to them and their words that they're saying move me so much that I just feel like my whole entire aura and spirit changed to the
shifting.
point where I was vibrating. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I was like, "Girl, gotta have you on this podcast,"
Ah,
and we didn't get, unfortunately, it was the first podcast, so we didn't get that deep. We were mostly just catching up, talking
yeah,
women in
no, that's
jujitsu and
what's
all those
up.
other things. So the guests are missing out, but we'll have Goalie back on again. But
No,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
it's powerful. And I mean the thing is
Mhm.
too is oh man, I feel real bad right now because I'm blanking on the brother's name, but he's the guy that runs All's Clothing and he does all the cool stuff down in San Ho at Kyotera, you know?
Mm,
And I went down there one day because I was working on some stuff promoting one of the smokers that Dorian Cartwright over at Half Gracie runs. He always runs these cool smokers. And somehow I went over there to promote the smokers and drop off some posters, and I didn't even realize that that dude his background is actually mental health,
oh,
and
wow.
it's actually in helping incarcerated youth, boys and
Mm,
girls all over. Like I think I'm probably messing this up, but it was up in like I think Oregon and I think Hawaii and some other spots. And one time we were talking, and he was talking to me, I think, about a woman who had passed away after taking her own life in jujitsu. And I was like, why do you think that happened? And he was like,
mhm,
because jujitsu is not a replacement for therapy. And
mm,
I was like, yo. And it's deep because, there's a lot of people who work out all the time and they'll be like, the gym is my therapy. And right. And there's people that'll be like, yo, bro, if I'm not on the mat, I'm just not right. The mats are my therapy, bro. Like, that makes sense to a degree, but
mhm,
real therapy is still cool, right? Like don't miss don't misconstrue the beauty of those experiences. In fact, my therapist said, um, I think he uses a term called cognitive bypassing, right?
mhm,
Where people will use their faith so much that they're still not really dealing with themselves, right?
mm,
Like, they will use stoic
yeah,
philosophy to, oh, well, that looks like this and that looks like that, but you're still not really dealing with yourself and your issues and
mhm,
things like that. And so, it's crucial that we do. It's crucial that we do. And so, it's powerful, man. It's powerful. And we need to, use jujitsu to enrich our hearts and our minds and our bodies, but still take time to be deliberate about the emotional and psychological help that we need.
yeah, Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It becomes, I know for myself when I first started doing jujitsu, I used jujitsu as my escape haven until I couldn't, till I got to that point where I
Mm,
talked about, what I talked about with my mental health issues.
mhm.
And it was to the point where it's like it was either I remember getting to that point and I was like, I either am going to live or I'm going to die. Like, I'm either going to
Right.
choose to live or I'm going to choose to die here at this point right now. And failure or dying to me was not an option because there was
Mm,
still hope for me. I still
mhm.
wanted to see more of my life happen. So in my head, I was like, but, failure here is not an option. So how do I get myself out of this hole? I didn't have the tools or the answers at the time. I was
Yeah.
just scraping and holding on to any piece of knowledge and any person that
Yeah.
I had in my life. My mom during that time was a huge support. I don't know what I would do without her. Um, my coach Darren at the time was a huge support. That's one of the
Yeah.
reasons why I'm so tight with him because it was like in the darkest moment of my life, you had my back, and that's a big deal for me.
Nah, that's
Um,
same for me.
yeah,
Gumby hit me up and he heard me being hella fragile and he was like, "Yeah, you need therapy." Like he was just like off the top. He was like, "I'm gonna pay
yeah,
for the first session. Call this number and get on it." You know what I mean? And I did it.
yeah,
That was crucial. One day I was like on the real, like I was looking around the house for stuff to off myself with,
mhm,
and my dad just happened to call. And I wasn't even talking to him about anything crazy, but I think he could just hear the darkness. And he was like, "What are you doing for dinner tonight?" I was like, "Nothing." He was like, "All right, I'm gonna come over and get you." I was like, "Okay." Like he
okay,
totally saved my life
yeah,
that day. I tell him,
yeah,
I'd be like, "Bro, you saved my life that day. Because if you wouldn't invited me over for dinner, that would have been it." You know what I mean?
yeah,
And I think that life is hard for all of us. I think that, there's a lot of reasons that we could complain about the American school system, but one of the things that we know they don't do is they don't really address the emotional needs
mhm,
of the young people and teach them how to deal responsibly with what they feel. And
mhm,
so I hope that in the future, that changes. And I just hope to be have a hand in that, you know, um, um, helping young people find value in themselves, uh, and worthy of contemplating and cultivating the best aspect of whoever they are, before they fall for how many people do or don't like them on TikTok or YouTube or IG, that they can find and love themselves. And,
mhm.
unfortunately, many adults, we still struggle with the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Finding value in things outside of ourselves, in external things, right? How many likes do I have? How much success can I gain? How
Yeah.
hard can I work to be valued? Well, those things what I found to keep myself out of that hole is finding value in myself intrinsically
Mm,
within. Just
it's
things
crucial.
that I am, not by things that I do? And so that's shifting where I put my energy and where I put my value for myself really helped me release a lot of negativity in my life. Not just negative people, but negative thought patterns, like negative habits, negative behaviors because I just anything is like who am I being in this moment, not what can I do for this person, how can I be for this, if it's for somebody else, how can I be in this relationship, how can I be a better girlfriend, not what can I
Yeah.
do for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. And, I think a lot of it too is like, society works so hard to keep us distracted that it's very hard to
Mhm.
figure out who we are when we're always in our phone. I struggle with phone addiction still. You know what I'm saying? But like, when I was at the Next 45, even though I was really happy to do the keynote talk, which was called Stoic Philosophy, Life and Love, like looking at Stoic philosophy through the lens of love, like what does it mean to be loving and a Stoic? And there's different kinds of Stoic love, love just in that philosophy. But like, my best time was actually paddleboarding on a lake by this whole thing of lily pads and lotuses. And I was
Oh, that's
just by
beautiful.
myself, whoop,
Yeah.
whoop, just whoop. And I was like, yo, like coasting by this whole like 30 or 40 feet thick of lily pads and lotuses. And it was just perfect silence. All I could hear is like my paddle. Like that was the best thing. That was the best thing. Even more than like how happy I was with my talk. That was the best thing for me, right? But
Mhm.
we live in a world where being by ourselves seems dumb. Being by ourselves seems, oh, you being too nerdy or you being too weird or whatever. But really, like if you look at a lot of Buddhism and Confucianism specifically, right? They talk about how hard it is for people to be by themselves without music, people to be by
Mhm.
themselves without, things to distract them, right? And so like we have to learn to be at peace with who we are, and then everything starts to open up.
Yeah, I think being in nature is super helpful for that because in the home, it's not just easy for us to be distracted by all of the technology and the electronics, the TV, our phone, things that we have to do around the house to clean, but we're already so removed from nature, being especially if you live in an urban environment,
Totally.
right? So soon as I step foot on the sand or put my feet in the grass, I get a completely different energy shift. And I don't need music at that point. My music is the
I'm saying,
wind in the through the
I'm
leaves or the
saying
birds
exactly.
chirping.
Yo, you spitting bars right now, because like
Yeah.
before I started coming back and forth out here a lot and trying to hang out here, um I used to go jog at Lindemar Beach in Pacifica. And
Mhm.
I would get up, I would run the full span of the beach down one side and back, and then I would take my shoes off and I would walk with the waves just kind of going like ankle height, you know what I'm saying? And I never felt better than when I was doing that. I never felt better than when I was doing that. And there's this thing, if you go on YouTube, I think it's called the Schumann
Mhm.
resonance, and it is the frequency of the earth. And so a lot of times what
Mhm.
I will do is I will sit on the earth or stand barefoot on the earth. It's called grounding, right? Because the
Mhm.
energy from the earth, it goes through your body. I'm not talking like hippie stuff. I'm talking about like actual measurable science. Um, it's called grounding, and it's good for your body to be on the earth. So you can stand on grass or sand or whatever. It's called grounding, right? And I would listen to the earth's frequency. It's called the Schumann
Mhm.
resonance. And if you listen to that with headphones on and you just sit still, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And it's incredibly good for your actual brain, right?
Mhm.
So, the Stoics were about nature, the Buddhists were about nature, the Sufis were about nature. And you find, you know, even if you look at things, ancient like Freemasonry, you find that a lot of the things that they were doing were connected to reflecting nature in at that time what was becoming modern society. And so it's very powerful to see how being still in nature has moved so many societies. And then we get to this place where we're so high in technology that we've
Mhm.
forgotten our own origins, right? We've
Yeah.
forgotten our own roots. It's powerful.
Well, I'm gonna try to not be so political, but it's gonna be hard with my this next statement, which is it
Go.
reminds me a lot of just African ancestry and how we were removed from that, from like those traditions and that history and those spiritual practices in a sense. And it's like, I wouldn't say I'm doing a lot of research to get back to that point, but I do love technology for connecting us to those different cultures so that I
Right.
can see and I can understand, oh, this is what, you know, people from this area would do, like especially as a black woman, this is how we would actually take care of our hair. This is how we would take care of
Right.
our bodies. This is how we would eat. This is how we would connect with nature. And even though I'm still removed here in the United States. I'm using technology as a way to open myself up to different worlds.
Reintroduce
It's
yourself,
still it's
right?
humbling to know how removed we are from
Yeah.
all of that ancient history and that ancient knowledge that served us to be more grounded, as you said.
Yeah, no. It's a big deal, and so
Yeah.
and this is where we bring it back to jujitsu, right? Because a lot of my health now actually comes from Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, right? I was lucky enough to meet and interview Helio Gracie, back when the UFC was brand
Wow.
new, back when Hoist was in there mobbing and choking fools out. And I remember Horion telling me about the Gracie diet. I remember Horion telling me about the importance of juicing and acai and what is it? Guarana, that other like berry, you know what I'm saying? And so like I
Mhm.
remember having guarana for the first time and they were laughing at me because I hadn't eaten that day. And then I was drinking. They were like, this fool's about to be off the Richter. And I was. And I was. But I juice now. Like everybody knows me for juicing. My roommates.
Actual juice, not juicing like,
Yeah, yeah. I'm not juicing. I got nothing. You know what I'm saying? I got a blood test, the same blood test I had in high school is still here. But but I juice a lot, like almost every day. I have natural juice. And then on Bishop Chronicles, I'm pretty sure it's still up. I got to interview Ralston Gracie, who basically
Mhm.
became a fanatic about the Dr. Sebi diet, and he's blended it with the Gracie diet to improve health and stuff like that. And so he and I, that's my brother for real. Like we still talk about all of that stuff and more every day, right? But this is how
Halston
jujitsu.
is interesting. Because I've met Halston when I was a white belt, and he just
Really?
kinda randomly pops up, like, I'll just see him, like, I'm like, "Oh, wow.
Yo,
Nice to see you around." It's just kinda crazy.
I got a
And
hella
it's
funny
interest
story for you on
Yeah.
him. 'Cause you're right,
Okay,
right?
go ahead.
He's this dude who's amazing and he'll just pop up. Check this out. Check this out.
Yeah.
True story. So I'm chilling, right? I'm like, yo, man, I gotta, I was taking this woman I'm still with on a great date. I gotta figure out something cool. So I'm like, I'm gonna take her to Muir Woods. We're gonna walk. We're gonna go for a walk in Muir Woods. Maybe go to Muir Beach. So we walk in
Mhm.
Muir Woods. We chilling. We in the cuts of Muir Woods. I don't even know where I was. You understand? I literally don't. We're walking around. It's a great day. Oh, you want to have a sit for a bit? Yeah. So we're just sitting on this bench and we're chilling. Now, I had told Ralston, I said, hey man, I'm gonna be chilling with this lady, and I was thinking maybe like, have you ever like cooked dinner for somebody, bro? Like, I was like, what if I broke you off, right? Left you at the house. I go on the whole walk thing, and I come back, and you like cook dinner. He was like, yeah, maybe we can figure that out. But our schedule was too crazy, and we didn't figure it out. So anyway,
Mhm.
I'm sitting here chilling. We talking on the bench, and all of a sudden, we see this dude in the distance, and he's running with his shirt off at a really fast pace. And he gets close, and I'm like, Ralston? He's like, Adisa. I was like, what's up, bro? He's like,
That's
I'm just
so
going for a
funny.
shower. I was like, and he looks at me, he's like, is that the woman you was talking about? I was like, yeah, that's her. And she's like, hey, what's up? It was hilarious. I was like, yeah, he was at dinner, but we couldn't get it figured out. It was
Yeah.
hilarious. But Ralston is so wise. He's always studying. He's always like trying to study the body, food, the
Mhm.
earth. And he's an impressive dude, man. He is an impressive dude,
Yeah.
man. Shout out to that dude. Shout out to that dude.
Yeah. I don't, we're not tight like you. Like, I just see him. I'll just see him
Yeah, yeah,
randomly
yeah.
here, and but I always have cool conversations with him, anytime I do talk to him and catch up, and he's
Yeah,
kinda like,
he's
"Oh,
great.
you're still training,"
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of
That dude, yeah, that dude's
interesting.
amazing, man. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 Absolutely.
That's cool.
But yeah, this is how jujitsu can save your life, right? That there are
Mhm.
limits to what jujitsu can and should do for you, maybe mentally and emotionally. And you should always look for therapy, look for support groups and things like that. But what jujitsu does do to enrich your mind, to open your heart to your own potential, to test your body and help show you what you're capable of. I don't think there's a better tool in the modern world than jujitsu for that. I just don't. And you know what? Look, this is no disrespect to anybody who likes hoops or soccer or parcheesi or whatever they get into. I'm just saying I don't think that anything will help you grow as quickly into learning about who you are and what you're capable of as Brazilian jiu-jitsu. You know, I just don't.
Yeah. I I agree, and I think, you know, we're both biased, and I'll
A little
admit to
bit,
that. Um, yeah, you know,
a little
I'll admit to
bit.
my bias, but, I believe it too because, you know, there's always this social component with a lot of group sports, you know? You'll have a social component to basketball team, football team,
Mhm.
you know, anything where there's a team involved. I just find that the connection with martial arts specifically and jujitsu is different because it's deeper. It just
By a
becomes
lot.
deeper some way.
No,
Yeah.
by a lot, you know. And the school that I'm at right now, you know, Gracie Baja Roundhay Leeds is an unbelievable school because the guy who runs it, like I said, Mike Bates and T,
Mhm,
you know, they're like, yo, like this is a community project first and a jujitsu school second. You know what I mean? Like
mm,
jujitsu is secondary to building the community. So there's so many kids, so many families, so many moms, so many dads that come and train. And it's just fantastic to see
mhm,
how the community engages itself. I just, you know, I haven't seen anything like that. And I'm from the Bay, where is probably one of the best places on earth to learn jujitsu ever. Okay, is the San Francisco Bay Area. But the level of community that I see being intentionally and consistently cultivated by Mike Bates and T and all the coaches over there at GBRL, it's amazing. And anybody will tell you that when they come to GBR, they're like, ooh, this place is different. And they're right. And
nice.
it's not that, like, you know, it's a relatively new school, right? So most of the students there are blue belts. I think they only have like one purple belt. And then, you know, it's a few black belts, you know what I mean, teaching, you know, and a lot of blue belt coaches teaching. But like, man, like what you get out of those classes in terms of community, I haven't experienced it anywhere else, and that's why I love the school so
Mhm.
much.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah,
it's
it's a beautiful thing. Well, so what are do you have any memorable stories from, you know, that community building experience or even just in your life, anything from your life in jujitsu? I know you have a lot on the podcast, on Bishop Chronicle podcast if people want to go
yeah,
back and listen to 'em. Anything you want to share for my podcast?
yeah. Let me think. Community building, community
Okay.
building. So this is gonna sound maybe corny to some people, but I really love this experience. So
Mhm.
there's a young boy at the school, and he has two stuffed animals, and he brings them to every class, and we give each other fist bumps and stuff all the time. But he always asks if I can give his stuffed animals fist bumps before and after class. And so one particular day, he comes in and he is crying. I mean, this boy is shattered, like he's in his gi, and he's just like,
Mm.
oh. And I'm like, what's wrong, bro? Because he doesn't even want to get on the mat. I'm like, what's wrong? And he's like, my mom left Jeffrey at home. I'm like, what? Jeffrey can't make it to class, and I don't want to be here without him. And I was like, okay. I was like, but check this out. I was like, I miss Jeffrey too. But what if, like, you got to go back to Jeffrey and, like, all he's going to want to know is how was class today? You think he's going to be happy if you just tell him he was over here crying and not learning? He's going to want to
Mhm.
see what you showed him. And if you stay over here crying all day, you're going to be like, oh, I was crying all day. And Jeffrey's going to be like, well, you didn't learn nothing. That's going to be bad, man. Why don't you just come on the mats and chill and da da da? And then he did. He got on. He had a great class. And I was like, all right, I want you to tell Jeffrey I said hello, you know what I'm saying? And show him what you learned today. And he was like, okay. And he was
Mhm.
like super happy. So then like
Yeah.
recently he came back, and Jeffrey is a seal, and he had a snow seal, a small snow seal named Jeffrey Jr. And he was like, look,
Mhm.
now I got Jeffrey and Jeffrey Jr. I need you to give them fist bumps. So now I got to give them fist bumps every class. And you know what I'm saying? But like to see him be resilient at that age and choose to train, it was just really touching for me. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And to me, I think there's nothing better than helping, seeing jujitsu teach a person that they can do something that they didn't think they could do. You know, I had a student in San Francisco, who a young woman who was visually impaired. She was, just she was blind essentially, right? Like she uses a cane and all of that. And I don't think she weighs 100 pounds, and she wanted to learn jujitsu. And so the school had asked me, how do you feel about teaching like a blind woman? And I was like, this is my dream. Like I was like, yo, like people don't know I can't see like at all. Like right now, I can see your form and your color. I can make nothing out. Like it's bad over here. So
Yeah.
she comes to class, and everybody at USF like really embraced her. And I remember being afraid to do the warm-ups with her because I was like, what if the warm-ups kill her? She's never done this. And she, you know what I mean? She may be like, what? I ain't got
Mhm.
time for this, whatever. Yo, she never complained. When we did that first warm-up, because I was watching her. Here come the push-ups. Here come the jujitsu push-ups. Here come the, you know what I'm saying? Here come the
Mhm.
ukimis. And I was waiting for her to be like, I'm out. Nah, stay down. And when I would show a move, she improved me because I realized that there was a big gap between what you think you're doing and saying what you're actually doing. Okay.
Yes.
There's
Yes.
such a big gap between what you're doing and what you're saying you're doing. All right. So here I'm grabbing the wrist. Grabbing the wrist. What does that mean? Grabbing the wrist with my left hand and the thumbs up, grabbing the wrist with the left
Mhm.
hand and my thumbs down, right? Like,
Mhm.
when you're describing a position, where is my body in proportion to their body, and where am I taking them, and how? She improved me so much just by showing up. And I remember I would be at home, like I would run through a position. How do you teach an arm bar from the closed guard to a person who can't see? How do you
Mhm.
do that? Like I had to do that. And she became really good, really quickly. And so I remember one day, even as small as she was physically, one day, a girl from a very reputable school came in. And she was like, hey, I see you guys got jujitsu over here. I've been meaning to come, but school's crazy. Can I just drop in and take a class today? I was like, sure. She was like, okay. I was like, how long you been training? She was like, year and a half. I was like, all right, cool. I was like, you want to roll with her? And she was like, yeah. Yo, could not pass this girl's close guard at all. And you
Yeah.
could see she was tripping. You know what I'm saying? She was tripping. And the girl didn't finish her from the guard, but the girl could not pass. She kept her posture
Mhm.
broken. She kept attacking. Every time she would go for an arm bar or whatever, the girl would sit up. She'd go back, get her, bring her down. You know what I'm saying? She was working the sweep attempts. And it was like, yo, like I started to almost cry. And then I caught myself and I said, you're only about to cry because she can't see.
Mm.
And by feeling that way, you're not honoring the technique that she's displaying on her own. Let her
Mm.
just be a great champion. Like, don't add anything to it. You know what I'm saying? And when that round was over, I said, how do you feel? She was out of breath. She was like, I'm okay. And I was like, all right, I'm really proud of you. You know what I'm saying? And like, this is like the beauty of this path. This is how, people always think about how their teachers like make them better. But I'm always impressed about how my students make me better. And so every time anybody who's ever studied under me, they know how I end every class. I shake their hand or I give them a fist bump and I say, "Thank you for improving me. Thank you for
Mhm.
improving me." And that's because Jigoro Kano said that that is the purpose of the bow. You thank your opponent for improving you, because you can't armbar and throw yourself. You can't choke yourself, right?
Mhm.
You only respond to the level of pressure put upon you that takes you up to this level of greatness. So you always thank
Mhm.
your opponent for improving you. And so I always do that. White belt to black belt, first day, last day on the mats, I'm always going to say thank you for improving me, because that's what you do, right? Like one of my homies, Adam, he said, like, you know how like in traditional martial arts people use this like way of like bowing, right?
Mhm.
So he was saying that the thumb is bent, and that the thumb symbolizes the master bowing to his students.
Mhm.
Oh, word? And he was like, yeah, because RZA from Wu-Tang, he always does this. And he was like, yeah, it's about the sensei, the instructor, bowing before his students in gratitude, right? And the right fist being covered by the hand of peace, right? Like you're choosing peace. And I was like, what? And so I always thank my students for improving me, my training partners for improving me. And this is what I think jujitsu is supposed to do. It's supposed to leave us improved, right? And if we don't allow ourselves to see our experience on the mat as more than a win-loss record, like I got tapped or I tapped everybody, or
Mhm.
someone, like none of that is relevant. You improve little by little every class, whether you get smashed or not. And nobody will ever remember your win-loss record, but they will remember your character.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's powerful. That's awesome. Yeah, I really feel that story. I didn't want to stop you midway, but I was just gonna say, isn't it wonderful to like how feel that part where you're the teacher, but your students are teaching you. They're helping improve you as a martial artist, and as I'm not going to just say as a person, but narrow it more specifically as a communicator, right?
Yeah.
And how you relate and have relationships with other people. Um and so I not trying to name drop here, but I used to train with Hyder, a mill.
Mm,
He would teach me boxing for the longest time, and I would go to El Nino. And he just recently got his contract with the UFC.
off the
He
chain.
won his match for the yep, he killed it. The record for UFC contenders for the most takedowns defended. It was like 18 defended 18 takedowns.
That's
Anyways, I'm off on a tangent. Like where our schedules don't match up anymore where I can train with him.
right.
But I've improved so much in my confidence on my feet and my
Mhm,
striking. It's just like a whole
mhm.
new ball game to me that one of my clients who I teach well, I'll train her out of a gym. I'm not going to say the name because it's a commercial
Yeah,
gym, and
yeah.
they don't want outside trainers coming in training them. So I train her exactly. So I train her there, and she wanted to do boxing as her cardio. And mind you, it's the same this week. So me and Hyder can find her schedule matching up. So I decided, you know what? I'm just going to continue my training from what I've learned from him, teaching you what I know. And I
Mm,
notice myself like as I have to recall how he would teach me how to throw my jab,
right.
how he would teach me how to throw my cross, how he would teach me to throw my hook. I have to recall how he's like taught me all these different combinations and why. So it's
Right.
like I'm I'm switching our roles, are switching
Mm,
our perspective on what our on my learning process essentially by
yeah.
teaching her.
It's powerful, man. It's powerful. I mean, I can't
Yeah.
tell you how many times when I'm talking to my students, it's really Gumby from Heroes Martial Arts,
Mhm.
right? It's really Gumby talking through me to them. It's not really me, you know. It's the echo of Gumby. It's the echo of Hal Gracie. It's the echo of Charles Gracie, right? even like some of my best friends like Denny Prokopos, right? It's the echo of Denny, right? Like things that they taught me, things that they told me, things that I saw, you know what I'm saying? Things that I saw from BJ Penn, right? Things that I saw from Dave Camarillo, you know, back when I was a white belt, you know what I'm saying? And like that stuff still, it still sticks with me. And so it's like a lot of times when I'm talking, they're hearing it from me, but these are the echoes of my instructors and my training partners. So yeah, I totally understand.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, but I think you put your different style and your different flavor on how you say it or how you communicate it to them, in a different way. There's definitely, for sure, real statements that Darren has said to me that I'm sure he's
Yeah,
got from Health, you
yeah,
know. That's like just saying that verbatim
yeah,
because I understand, in that moment, that's what I needed to hear. And in this moment, this is what they need to hear,
yeah,
But
yeah.
for the most part, I would say that, how I communicate the lessons learned from all the different instructors that I've had and training partners that I've had is through my own personal communication style and how I relate to things in the world too. So,
So
there's still some flavor of Vaughn
yeah,
that's just
no, no, no.
me
Yeah, it's
and
gonna have
Martin
your
in there
seasoning
too.
on it. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna have your
Mhm.
seasoning on it for sure. You know, and that's how it
Yeah.
should be, right? That's how it should be. You know, there are these really two amazing twin boys at GBRL who they're young teens. I think, you know, like I ain't gonna try to put no pressure on them or nothing, but I think they could be some future Rotolo type dudes. You know what I'm saying? These two
Mhm.
brothers. And they're preteens right now. And so one day, one of the boys was trying to take me out, and then after the match, he came up to me and he said, "One day, you know, I'm going to tap you out." And I said, "You know what? You're right, and I'm going to teach you how to do it." And his face just
Mhm.
like dropped, like what? I was like, yeah, man. I was like, that's my job, bro. That's my job. I
Yeah.
said, now it's gonna be 10 more years. You know what I'm saying? If you got that kind of time, but I'm here for it. You know what I'm saying? And I'll show
Mhm.
you everything I can help you learn. And so, like, you know, they they work so hard. If I tell them anything, like drink more water, they'll be like, you know what I mean? Or if I say move like
Mhm.
this, like, and so that's a huge responsibility, right? That's a huge responsibility. And so, like, the integrity that you have to maintain within yourself and the consistency that you have to maintain inside yourself. Sometimes, you know, I'm 53, I'm old, man. I don't want to be doing air squats at 9:30. I don't want to be doing jiu-jitsu push-ups. I don't want to do no yoga, but this lower back will lock up if I don't do that yoga. You know what I'm saying? This knee might quit on your
Yeah.
boy if you don't hit them air squats, right? Or if you don't take that
Yeah.
bike ride on the lake. So I've got to do these things, right? I've got to watch the footage. I've got to watch the tapes, right? Because I was thinking about this when I was coming home the other day. I was like, obviously, I'm 53. At some point, I'm going to kick the bucket. But like, in some ways, the students that I've had to share information with here in the UK and back in the Bay, you know, 10, 15, 20 years from now, my echo will be coming out of their mouth when they're teaching a technique to someone. And I was actually thinking
Mhm.
about how beautiful it's going to be to not be here, but still be teaching jujitsu through young men like them and other students that I've.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I'm looking up this quote right now. It was one of my students' fathers. He sent me this quote. He sent me some new ones too. Okay. Hold on now. Hold on. Okay. But this one, what he sent me was pretty funny and poignant to what you were talking about when it comes to was it? Oh, here it is. This is it. When it comes to your students saying that they're going to tap you out one day. And
Mhm.
he said, I want to be very clear about this. I'm not working out to have a healthier lifestyle. I'm working out to dominate my children in any athletic endeavor as possible for as long as I want them to be terrified at 28, terrified of losing to me in a foot race. And I
Yo,
was like,
I love that. I
Joe,
love
you're right.
You
I was
know,
like,
I
just
love that,
he
you
is
know?
like one of my favorite like student parents. You know, we're always chit chat. You know, we're pretty tight over here at Physique
Yeah,
Magnifique, but
yeah.
yeah.
No, it's a good squad over there. Beautiful squad.
Uh-huh.
Beautiful, you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely, absolutely. So, we you know, I got you on here talking about resilient men. We kinda diverged in some
Yeah,
jujitsu talk, but, you know, so
yeah,
you know how the podcast game is, you know how it works. Sometimes we take
yes.
tangents, so we're gonna get back on track. Have you ever had anybody, like, have any resistance or criticisms about stoicism or
Big
the
time.
projects that you have?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
How'd
big
you
time,
handle
big time.
those?
And so there's a couple different things, right? Like the first is just people not knowing what stoicism is and really not feeling it because it's an old white thing at a time when like intercultural shifts are happening and are important. So people are like, yo, bro, why are you talking about all these old white dudes all the time? Like, how come you're not talking about the Kemetic masters of ancient Egypt and you ain't breaking down, you know, the griots of West Africa? Now, the truth
Mhm.
is, if anybody really knows an OG, they know I gave those lectures back in 1992, and I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. You know, there's a
Mhm.
book called Stolen Legacy. Anybody is free to go pick it up. It talks about the African origins of a lot of what is now Greek philosophy. Okay. And so people will be like, how come you're not talking about that? And it's really like, because you didn't know me 20 years ago when I was doing it doesn't mean I didn't do it. And because I don't talk about it all the time now doesn't mean I don't know it. I knew it before you knew it, probably. And I've lectured about it at a collegiate level before you were probably even in college. So that's not really the point. The thing here is if you're dealing with Stoic philosophy in a time where, you know, people are struggling against white supremacy as a system, and I'm not talking about merely a police officer killing an unarmed black woman or, you know what I mean? You know, a bunch of
Mhm.
officers dogpiling a guy and he dies or whatever, right? Like, I'm talking about the entire system that even makes those cops see that black man as less than human, whether he's
Mhm.
committed a crime or not. The fact that they see him as less than human, the fact that they see him as a super athlete, Wakandan rebel that they can't control, so they got to shoot him just when he like reaches to undo his seatbelt, right? Like these are the kinds of things that the system of white supremacy combats. In any righteous attempt to get justice against white supremacy, I cannot have a problem with that. However, we have to be careful about doing to white society what white society has done to us, which is to negate and deny, right? No matter
Mhm.
what you want to say about the African origins of Greek philosophy, etc., not here to debate it because I already know the discussions better than many of those that try to make them today. Like it doesn't stop what the Greeks were able to achieve. It doesn't.
Mhm.
It's like saying, well, you know, because hip hop comes from soul, everything rappers did is trash. What? So we're just going to deny Tupac because he sampled this dude who comes from soul? You can't do that, right? What the
Mhm.
Stoics did, what Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, what Plato, what Socrates, right? What Aristotle wrote, like the greatness of that is not to be denied just because white supremacy is a real thing now, right?
Mhm.
So it's like I, as a black man who benefit from stoicism, I'm not going to say, oh, well, all this Greek stuff came from Africa anyway, so whatever. No, bro. Part of justice is giving credit where it's due from the beginning.
Mm.
Period. So I don't have a problem acknowledging the African origins of philosophy in those regards and acknowledging the Stoics. And I'm not going to use a time when the ideas and words of white men are kind of like out of style and not mention these guys if they brought great truth, if they brought great justice, if they brought great wisdom, if they brought great compassion. Why would I deny the value of what they bring right now? So sometimes I think in some ways people who know me, know my writing, know a lot of things, that they're like, I don't understand why he's talking about all this Greek stuff right now. Well, it's the same reason I talked about anything, because it works.
Mm-hmm.
I'm writing about it. That means it works. Not for everybody, but for
Mm-hmm.
me and a lot of people. So, you know, I got a lot of pushback on that. I think some of the weirdest stuff that I've experienced is once I started this resilient men's group in the United Kingdom. The funniest thing that happened was a lot of Black guys from America were like, what are you doing? You got this thing going on in the UK. You're not doing it here. I was like, cool. I start putting it together. I'm like, we're going to launch it on this day. Go ahead and sign up.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody
Crickets.
signed up. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
signed up. Nobody signed up. So then I'm like, yo, man, the same dudes that DM'd me
Mm-hmm.
looking for it were the same people that didn't show up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You just have to recognize that this is where, like, I'm not even faulting them. I just think that that's how afraid of facing themselves and trying to heal so many people are. So I'm not even mad at them. One of the guys was like, yo, man, I thought you was doing the US group. I said, I was doing the US group and nobody signed up. And he was like, dang, I said I was going to sign up and I didn't. And I was like, it's cool. Just sign up. And then once we got 10 of y'all, we'll get it popping. You know what I mean? But the
Yeah.
group I got in the UK is lit. And so, you know, I'm still going to do one in the US. And it's okay that nobody signed up, because I know the signups are coming. I know that people are in pain, and I know that I'm not going to stop being there for them. So it doesn't matter. And, you know, the reason why I appreciate you, and, you know, to any woman listening, if you know a man, even if he looks like he's cool, suggest it to him. He may not even know he needs it. Sometimes the strongest looking dudes are the ones that break the most suddenly and the most horrifically.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I
Yeah.
appreciate you for even letting me talk about the RMG, and I appreciate all the women who have suggested, hey, you should get into. I think half the dudes in the Resilient Men's Group in the UK were sent by wives. You know what I mean? So, you know, I applaud the women who applaud the outreach and are part of the outreach, you know, to make it
Yeah.
possible.
I
Hey, I
know,
think.
just for me as the woman, I'm
Hold on
always
one
trying
sec.
to find the word. Oh, go
Hold
ahead. Sorry.
hold on. I gotta
Ugh,
I gotta plug my
shoulder.
computer in. I'm out here messing up.
Ah,
Hold up.
it's
My
dying.
bad. Yeah, it's totally done.
Oh, oh, my phone. You saw the camera died there for a second. It's okay. It
I was
this
like, yo. This thing was like, yeah,
yeah.
3 minutes.
I I just kept talking. We'll figure it out. Well, luckily this podcast also goes on Spotify, so there's probably a lot of people who will just listening
Cool.
anyway.
All right, we
Um,
back.
but what I
You know,
was yeah, we back. So what I was trying to say is that sometimes I really try to be tactful with how I suggest these things to my guy friends,
yeah.
because I also know that sometimes just the mere suggestion of things coming from my mouth get resistance,
Can
even
be
if it
tricky.
was something that they would have wanted to do in the first place, you know?
Yeah, nah, that's the thing. That's the thing. And how you bring it up
It's like
is hard. You know what I mean?
mhm.
It's not always easy. You know what I'm saying? But you know, I'd rather have you mad with me because I suggested it from a place of love than be mad at myself because I didn't and you end up harming yourself or somebody else. You feel me?
Yeah,
Like, kind of
absolutely.
like where I'm at these days, but it is hard, and it's not an easy thing to open the door to. You know what I'm saying? Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. Man, Adisa, yeah, well, I appreciate you out here changing hearts, changing minds, changing lives with the work
Trying.
that you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying. You know
It's
what I'm saying?
important
I
work.
appreciate those who make my life easier. You know what I'm saying? Who
Mhm.
make the conversations easier, who lend me an ear. You know what I'm saying? It's a big deal. It's a big deal, and I'm grateful.
Do you have any success stories from people who've been in your group?
Well, you know, the group is new. We've only been around, I think, like 2 or 3 months now. We've only been around for like 2 or 3 months.
Mhm.
But Yes. I mean, like all of the guys in the group, and it's such a wide group of people because we got guys as young as 18 and guys that are over 50. And
Mm.
it's really deep how I find like even though like yes, I'm talking about Stoic philosophy and whatever, like the open conversations are the deepest ones when guys start talking about like, be like, yo, so like what is one aspect of your life that you're letting yourself down on, and why do you think that is? And then everybody kind of
Mm.
goes through where they're failing themselves and why they think that is. And then to watch these men support each other. I mean, they're all essentially strangers. You know what I'm saying? We're all essentially strangers. And they'll be like, hey, man, I understand what you're saying, but I think if you did this, you probably achieve it faster. Or, don't be so hard on yourself because, this is also possible. And it's just beautiful, like to see that stuff happen. And I think that, I believe that every person has been through something that would have broken you.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't know that story yet. Could have come from their childhood, could have come from their teenage years, could have come as a young adult, could have come as an OG. Like you just don't know. You haven't had that story told to you yet. And so this is one of the reasons why I be chill with people, because everybody is a survivor of something incredible.
Yeah.
Everybody is a survivor of something incredible. And when I see these guys going back and forth, helping each other from the heart without judgment, it's it's just magnificent. I never get tired of seeing that. You know what I mean? I never get tired of seeing that. It's beautiful.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Any revelations for your journey doing this work? Anything that you grew from just by putting this group together, by listening to their stories?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I always knew, like, I was like, okay, I got this stoic outline. I know what I want to do, et cetera, et cetera. But man, um, even as the guy who's the facilitator of the group, I lead by sharing with my own vulnerability,
Mhm.
right? With my own shortcomings, with my own pain points, with my own uh struggles. And I do that intentionally because again, I'm not trying to be seen as like some type of guru who's got it all figured out. And sometimes their suggestions to me are groundbreaking. Their suggestions to me are mind-blowing. Their suggestions to me um are supremely inspiring, you know. So I mean, it's just kind of a reflection of that whole thing. Hold on, let me find this quote real quick. Uh, you know,
I just wanna say for the guests at home, I have this
mhm.
bag of plantain chips that I spilled all over the ground, and my rabbit is currently acting as a vacuum cleaner for me, for
That is
all the
awesome.
little crumbs that I couldn't pick up. She
That
loves
is
some
awesome.
plantain chips. I hope she doesn't die.
Yes. Oh, the plantains are not poisonous to rabbits, right?
Oh, they're
Um,
not, but she's had them before, she and tortilla chips and other things, but
so Rumi
I
says
just don't
Rumi
wanna.
has this
Yes.
thing, and this was actually the first person to teach me this was actually my fiance, and but it's
Mm,
true of all human beings. And it says, the beauty you see in me is a reflection of you. That's Rumi. The
mhm,
beauty you see in me is a reflection of you. And so when I'm talking to these guys as the one that's supposed to be the facilitator, and they're reflecting all this beauty to me that I didn't expect, that I didn't even show up for. I'm trying to show up as the helper, and then you get the help. That's gold. It's gold.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice. So
So
what's next
yeah.
for the group?
So our group meets Mondays 7 to 9 p.m. That's I think 11 to 1 if you're on the Pacific if you're on Pacific Standard Time, 11 to 1 on Mondays. And so we are just going for it. We'll have our thing going on tomorrow. We rotate between like deep stoic conversations and open conversations, and this upcoming one is open. So I'm just looking forward to seeing what everybody's been up to, and it's a wide group of people. Like some dudes are like attorneys for large acquisition and merger corporations, and other guys are like sound bath crystal like masters, and others
Mhm.
are college students, and others are business leaders, and others are artists. Like and some are martial artists, and it is just a ragtag group of dudes, but like we just have the most amazing time. So again, if you go to @Bishop Chronicles, you can learn how to sign up and be a part of it. And I'm working on setting up the American group like within the next few weeks. Like by no later than like mid-October, we should have the American RMG up and running. And I'm grateful to no one will be denied. Like, just come through, register. You'll see quickly that it's a worthwhile place and space for you to hear and be heard. Absolutely.
Amazing, Adisa. Any last words? Anything that you didn't say? Anything that we didn't talk about today that you would have
Ooh.
loved to talk about?
Um, you know what? I'm gonna leave everybody with this. Do not underestimate the power of meditation and prayer. Do not underestimate the power of meditation and prayer. Like it is a big deal. Meditation and prayer
Mhm.
has really got me through a lot of stuff. And beyond that, I'm going to say if you have beef with anybody or somebody got beef with you, seek forgiveness. Be willing to apologize and be willing to listen more, because life is short, man. Life is short. I've lost more people in my life in the last 3 years than in all the years before.
Mm.
Sometimes from, situations like cancer, or other diseases that were foreseeable. Sometimes it's very sudden, right? But like life is really short, and sometimes people be holding grudges because they have this illusion of time. Like, I'll let it go in a few years. Man, you don't know if you're gonna be here tomorrow, bro. You don't know if that person's gonna be here tomorrow. And like I've seen it
Mhm.
happen where people think like they're gonna hold this grudge until X happens, and then something happens, and that beef never gets squashed, right? Only your ego lets you do that. So lean into meditation and prayer, and embrace forgiveness, because life is short. And um, I don't got beef with nobody. You know what I'm saying? I used to be mad at hella people, and I just don't have the space to be angry anymore. I might not be happy. I may have lost some respect. I may not necessarily want to be in contact with you, but that doesn't mean that I have beef with you. It doesn't. It doesn't mean
Mhm.
that I have beef with you. It just means that your energy and the way that we engage is not healthy. That's all that means. You know what I mean? And if we can find a way for it to be healthy, that door is always open for me. You know what I mean? And I'm not always the best person my damn self. You know what I mean? So I know there's aspects of me that some people, are just don't want to deal with. And that's fair too. You know what I mean? Like we're all an acquired taste. You know what I mean? To some degree.
Mhm.
We're all an acquired taste to some degree, right? But I don't have beef with nobody. Embrace your joy, embrace your peace, look into meditation and prayer, do it consistently, and Google jujitsu near me. That's what you need to do, and embrace your future.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Adisa. Wonderful to have you on.
Yo, thank you so much. It's such an honor. I can't wait to blast this out on my Facebook and tweet it out to my kin folks. I'm very proud
Nice.
of you. I'm grateful for you. Um, I don't get to tell you all the time, but you really do inspire me. I be seeing your posts, you know what
Oh.
I mean? And I don't always shout you out and be like, but I'm telling you, I see you. I'm very proud of you. To see you get your black belt, like my heart was just like
Mm.
trembling, man. That was a fantastic thing.
Aw.
I think sometimes um we're so busy being us, whoever we are, everybody listening,
Yeah.
everybody, right? We're so busy being us. Sometimes we don't realize how amazing we are, but I'm gonna tell you, you are amazing, right? You are amazing, and I'm
Thank you.
grateful that we crossed paths. And if you ever find yourself out here, I got you. And then next time I come out there, I'll definitely look you up so we can kick it. All right?
Awesome. That would be great, Adisa. Miss you. Love
Yeah.
everything that
Too.
you're doing. And congratulations on your new life out in the UK.
Thank you so much. All right. Stay blessed. And I look forward to seeing this drop. I appreciate you.
All right. Take
All right.
care. Thank you for watching. You can watch more videos like this one by clicking these links.